Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back on the dev server and it's time to have a look at a new aircraft that is coming in for the Soviets. This is the Su-33 and it's a bit of a wild one because it's one of those vehicles that is really nice to see because of its history and also because of what it's adding to the game. Not just because of it, but also because of a new carrier that's turning up. But it's one which is severely limited compared to what the game kind of has, and at the same time, it's a squadron vehicle. So people who basically start the game tomorrow can get access to this thing straight away when it comes to the game, which has always been quite controversial since it is in the top tier of the matchmaking, and people will struggle since it doesn't have access to all the key modifications and armaments that people may want. So, the Su-33, if you have a look at it in the tech tree, you'll find this at rank 8. It's right here in the tech tree. So it's the top rank. So the only stuff it's going to be able to efficiently research is rank 7 and also rank 8. Everything else it's going to be absolutely useless at. You'll also get it stock because it's a squadron vehicle and you still have to grind out all the modifications on them. So just remember that as you are getting this thing. The armaments that it has at this level for air-to-air are pretty good, but it's missing out some in the ground ordnance options, and also, well, I suppose one of the big things it's missing and why it's 13.0 instead of higher, it doesn't have any active radar homing missiles. Instead, this thing is stuck with semi-active radar homing missiles and IR-guided missiles, which is still fine and still good, but it does limit your playstyles against what everybody else has, which you're going to be facing. From the X-ray point of view, it has a huge radar in the nose, the radar IRST type, the N001K, or the NOOB, as I like to call it, and it has a pretty decent search zone. Range is also fine, and also it has the TWS BVR ACM, and only is able to target one at a time. The RWR is the SPO L150, which has a CJ band and has pretty good detection, and also is able to have launch detection too. So you'll know when people are coming after you with their specific missiles, which is pretty crazy. Now, it is powered by the Saturn the AL31F Series 3. This means it's pretty fast, is able to do a lot of speed, but it's also a massive vehicle, and it will kind of lumber around the air compared to some of the more agile stuff that is being added into the game right now, such as the Eurofighter, which this thing will fight, by the way, just to remember. So always make that or take that into account. Now, weapons-wise, as we said, it has a bunch of IR-guided missiles, the R-73s specifically. So it doesn't get access to any like stock R-60s or anything like that. It doesn't have to deal with any of that, which is quite nice. Instead, it is just straight up the R-73 with the IRCCM. The other part of it, it gets semi-active radar homing missiles for the R-27s. You can actually bring 8 of these if you want, which is kind of crazy. And then also you have the ETs, which are the big, fat IR version of the R-27. So if you want to bring those along too. So just like the other Su-27 kind of variants and the Su-34, you have a lot of hard points and you're able to bring a lot of stuff. You can see with this loadout, we have 12 missiles overall, where most vehicles usually are able to take 8 missiles or 10 missiles. This one can take more. The only question is how useful are those missiles compared to other vehicles that are around the place and their missiles that they have access to. Is it good to have more R-27s and more R-73s in comparison to stuff like AIM-9Ms and AIM-120s? Well, you're going to have to find out the hard way while playing this thing, because guess what? They're not comparable. So the other part of this, which is a little bit disappointing, is the secondary weapon loadouts. We just got the Su-34 added to the game, which has access to some very good ground loadouts, where this vehicle doesn't. You have 500 kilo bombs, 250s, 100s, and just rockets. There are no guided munitions in the form of anti-ground or anti-ship missiles, which is pretty nuts. It doesn't even have any laser-guided bombs or TV-guided bombs or anything like that. It is just stuck with the very basic loadouts. And this might change, you know, this vehicle technically should be able to carry a lot of other ordnance along the way, but right now, because of that, it's actually much lower in battle rating in ground. The other part of it is it doesn't have a ton of countermeasures. Large caliber countermeasures, it has 48 of them, which may sound, you know, not too bad, but when you have a look at, let's say, another vehicle that once again it will fight in this current meta, you have 400 countermeasures on the Eurofighter. And this thing has better missiles, has better everything, and you will fight that over and over and over again in a realistic, where this thing is supposed to be good because of its armament. So it's a problem, right? It's a real problem with this machine. Doesn't have enough countermeasures, doesn't have any active radar homing stuff, is lacking ground-guided munitions, and all of that. So it's in a very unfortunate position in the game. Now, let's talk about something else. It is actually a really cool vehicle, and it has a really cool story behind it. The Su-33 is a development of the Su-27, which shouldn't really be a surprise when you look at it. It's a navalized version of it, and therefore it had a bunch of changes made to it so it could be launched off carriers. Now, that means that it needs a carrier in-game, right? And it needs to actually be able to experience this stuff. Well, guess what? In-game, they haven't just added the Su-33, they've also added the iconic Admiral Kuznetsov, which is a carrier alongside of it. So it isn't just the plane that you get to look forward to in the next update, you also get to look forward to the Admiral Kuznetsov. Now, this vehicle does actually have the guns on it, and the guns do work. These ones right here, the CRWSs, they do fire at things. I'm not sure if they will do in terms of the general game, but it's just really nice to see that they add so much extra stuff on top of what's already here. It also has the good old ramp, so you can ramp up and get into the air. You don't have to worry about any catapults or anything like that. And with the speed of these engines, it can definitely go for a very long time. One of the cool things as well is it does actually have its cockpit modeled right now. Not a ton of the new vehicles have their cockpit modeled, and the digital HUD that this thing has access to is completely nuts in terms of the different factors that it has. Looking at the radar modes, it has TWS, Search PD HDN, TWS HDN, Search PD, and that's it. So generally, you know, you'll be able to use them quite effectively, and that means use the missiles quite effectively on it from medium to low range. And in simulator, with access to this really cool HUD, and then also the head-mounted display that this vehicle has, I'm sure you'll have a great time with it too. It just, for me, has too many holes in it. It just has too many problems in terms of the other vehicles that you see around the place. So it just doesn't have access to the weaponry that's going to be useful, and at the same time, it just doesn't have anything in ground that makes it great either. And with already the Su-27 here, with already the Su-34 here, and also the Su-30 being at least talked about because certain factors of it have been found in the files, it just makes me wonder what place in the game does this actually have, and what is it supposed to do. By the way, as we talked about, it does have, you know, the head-mounted display, so you can see you can move that around, which is pretty cool. And the Seeker head on the R27 ET is quite nice, and on the R27 ER is also not too bad while you're trying to find vehicles too. So at least there's that. I just worry that people will out of the gate basically grind this thing out, and then they will just get hammered because of the simple fact that this is not in a meta-defining position, or at least close to right now. Maybe in a little bit it will be, but it isn't right now. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.